tonight. Regina's fire department forces people to abandon a tent encampment outside City Hall, and a meeting to deal with the situation is cancelled. Also, the Saskatchewan Teachers Federation says the government is not playing fair with new billboards as they bargain for a new contract. Plus, we meet a recent Regina High School grad who's cooking up a storm at the Northwest Territories Culinary Festival.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Thursday, July 27th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thanks for watching. It was a dramatic afternoon outside Regina City Hall as the city takes action against a tent encampment that's been growing over the last 6 weeks on the grounds. This on the same day that a meeting about the tents was supposed to take place and was abruptly cancelled. Alexander Kwan brings us that story.
When they arrest me, kick me out of my home!
Anger was boiling over at Regina City Hall as police moved in, telling residents they need to be gone by the weekend.
Fire department's closing the camp, okay? So they're suggesting that you pack your stuff up and leave it, okay?
The move caps off a few frantic days in Regina politics. Mayor Sandra Masters called a special council meeting about the camp with less than 24 hours notice. But the meeting was canceled before it began. Many councillors are on vacation and couldn't make it. At least 3 councillors found out about all of these developments through the media. Andrew Stevens was one of them.
Bringing us to here, I think, is bullshit.
A morning tent fire is what caused the fire department to order the people here to leave under the Fire Safety Act.
Effective immediately, they need to start collecting their belongings and vacating the property. And if they don't, we have plans to clean up the property.
City Hall will be closed to the public while the camp is decommissioned.
As far as my perspective is concerned, Chief Jackson and the entire Fire and Protective Services, who have been on site every day since the camp started, and responding to issues, they have my full support.
As Masters spoke to the media inside Thursday afternoon, police served notices outside. It's left a sour taste in the mouths of volunteers and residents.
We were told we have to leave immediately and when we asked where we're going to send people or who is going to come and help connect these folks to housing and to different services, they had no idea. They said that's not our job, that's social services supposed to do it, the government is supposed to do it, which is understandable. But this was clearly so poorly thought out.
Some residents say they have no plans to leave, and volunteers say they'll stand with them, which means despite the notices, this dispute here at City Hall isn't over. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Regina.
An 80-year-old man was found guilty today of killing his brother and dismembering the body more than 25 years ago. The crime goes back to a farm dispute in September of 1997 in Regina. 53-year-old Patrick Thauberger died in Joseph Thauberger's home that month. Regina police found his remains more than 2 decades later in a rural area in December of 2020. Joseph was accused of second-degree murder and offering an indignity to human remains and pleaded guilty last March. But Court of King's Bench Justice Janet McMurtry ruled today that he was guilty on both charges. She said in her ruling that all evidence pointed to Patrick being deliberately killed. Joseph was sentenced to life without parole for 10 years. The crime rate in Canada is up and violent crime has increased the most. Statistics Canada numbers for 2022 show a big increase in robbery, homicide and extortion. Terry Reith reports.
One of the most troubling increases is the 8% year-over-year jump in homicides. 874 people killed in 2022. That's 78 more than the year before. Gang violence, particularly with firearms, accounted for a quarter of those cases. There's also a troubling rise in spousal violence.
The proportion of women who were killed by their spouse or intimate partner was approximately 11 times higher than the proportion of men.
Other crimes on the rise, a 15% increase in robberies, a 39% jump in extortion cases.
Extortion is when there's like threats that are accompanying like a fraud, for example, or threats that are used in accompanying another type of violation.
The largest increases in crime were in the West, particularly Manitoba, which recorded a 14% increase. As to why, as with everything, it's complicated. Economic issues, unemployment, and housing issues are all key factors.
We must begin to pay more attention to social welfare services. Those are inadequate as we speak, and the results are showing.
Overall, violent crime is at its highest level since 2007. So, should Canadians be worried? Well, maybe a little, but the criminologist says Canada still ranks as one of the safest places in the world to live. Terry Reith, CBC News, Edmonton.
Now, taking a closer look at our province, the same data shows Saskatchewan had the worst crime severity rate of all the provinces, with a record number of homicides for the third year in a row. Police reported 71 homicides in 2022, and that includes the 11 victims from last September's mass stabbing at James Smith Cree Nation and Weldon. That's one more person killed than in 2021. Only the Northern Territories recorded higher crime severity rates. That said, Regina police are taking some solace from the stats. Historically, the city's had the worst crime severity among Canada's major cities. It slid over the last several years, dropping to 5th in Canada in 2022.
Clearly, there is still work to do. I mean, we don't ever want to be sort of in the top 10, but the fact that we are making some small inroads in comparison to some of the other jurisdictions in Canada, I think is good news generally. Overall, it doesn't really change the course in the work that we do in the city. We know there is a lot of work to be done in relation to the number of firearms, the opioids in our city.
In Regina Police's most recent monthly crime stat, some crimes like robberies and assaults were up in the city through the first half of 2023 compared to the same point last year. Tension is rising in contract negotiations between the provincial government and the Saskatchewan Teachers Federation, and government billboards are adding fuel to the fire. Negotiations that usually take place behind closed doors are now turning public as both sides try to gain support. Billboards like this are popping up around the province, claiming that average teacher's salary is $92,000 and that it is more than most teachers in Western Canada. The STF's president calls it misinformation.
After only 3 meetings of provincial collective bargaining, we're now seeing these attack ads coming out addressing only a very small issue or a very narrow issue at the bargaining table.
How disappointing this is to see a government use taxpayer dollars, using teachers' taxpayer dollars to send a message that communicates that they don't care about all the hard work that Saskatchewan teachers put in to take care of our children and youth in our school system.
Vicot says salary is not the only issue on the table. Teachers want the government to address class sizes, special services, and classroom violence. The Ministry of Education wouldn't discuss the billboard, but in a statement said the government's proposed 7% wage increase over 3 years is a fair deal. The opposition NDP says the closure of an ICU in Battlefords is another example of poor communication from the Saskatchewan government. Today, the NDP shared a Saskatchewan Health Authority memo from 3 weeks ago. It indicated the ICU at Battlefords Union Hospital would close from July 13th to August 3rd. The opposition says the public should have been told.
Healthcare workers feel scared not only about their working conditions and working short, but they're terrified that someone's going to show up at their ER, show up at their facility, needing care, expecting care to be there, only to find a piece of paper on the front door saying, you know, sorry, you have to go somewhere else.
The Ministry of Health says the ICU at the hospital in North Battleford is temporarily closed due to staffing challenges. It says adult occupancy in ICUs province-wide is at 75%. A recent Regina High School graduate is cooking up a storm at the Northwest Territories Culinary Festival today. The young Indigenous cook is a special guest of an acclaimed Saskatchewan Métis chef. Laura Sharpaletti has that story.
Saskatoons, southern flavors, and lots of sugar. These are a few of Phoenix's Nana's favorite things. The 18-year-old cook and recent graduate of Scott Collegiate's Food Tourism and Hospitality Pathway program plans on turning their love of sweets into a business one day. But right now, Isnana is in Yellowknife, cooking alongside some renowned Canadian chefs, including their mentor, Métis chef Jenny Lessard. It's part of their journey to become the person they wish they had when they were younger.
I wanted an Indigenous person who was also two-spirit and who was into the different arts and into trying new things and exploring.
Isnana joined the Tourism and Food program in grade 10. They didn't have career goals or expectations. They just wanted to see where it led them.
Honestly, it really opened up my perspective on things. So growing up, I always thought it was just like, this was one thing and this is how it was worldwide, you know, because I wasn't really shown many other ways. But in high school, I was shown these different cultures.
Isnana developed a living, breathing love for food and travel. They also delved into Indigenous cooking and got the opportunity to cook at the International Indigenous Tourism Conference in Winnipeg in March. The former lead of the Pathway program says Isnana exudes confidence and always stood out in the kitchen.
Just their energy, you know, and just that like willingness to try something new. Because a lot of students, you know, that they're afraid of that, or it might hold them back a little bit.
Isnana prefers not to live by a 5-year plan or a list of goals, but in the moment. They are happy to be graduated and out in the world, but will always remember high school as a great experience, especially because elementary school did not allow them to be themselves.
It was like very whitewashed, and I was like put down for being very smart, you know, very intelligent and artistic. I wasn't able to always fit in, so I want to be that person for youth nowadays.
Isnana may live in the moment, but they know the future is looking sweet. Laura Sharpaletti, CBC News, Regina.
Special treat in downtown Saskatoon today, a Canadian Forces snowbirds flyover. It was hosted in River Landing, but you could see it from other places in Saskatoon as well. There was a barbecue after at the Aviation Museum for fans to meet the team. The snowbirds have already had a busy summer, appearing at Craven actually 2 weeks ago at Country Thunder. Today's Saskatoon flight was the start of their Western Canada tour, headed next to Red Deer, Edmonton, and then off to BC. We'll be back after the break. A new report from a group of climate scientists says the world is on track to set a dubious record. Hottest month ever recorded. The World Meteorological Organization and the Copernicus Climate Change Service are making that prediction. Christine Birak has the details.
Scientists with the United Nations say based on the data they're seeing, it's extremely likely that this month, July 2023, will break heat records as the hottest month ever on record. Secretary General of the UN, Antonio Guterres, did not mince words about the gravity of the situation.
Climate change is here, it is terrifying, and it is just the beginning. The era of global warming has ended, the era of global boiling has arrived. The air is unbreathable, the heat is unbearable, and the level of fossil fuel profits and climate inaction is unacceptable. Leaders must lead.
Now, Guterres also said for scientists, what we're seeing unfold in terms of heat waves, fires, and extreme weather is exactly what they've been predicting. The only difference is it's happening even faster than many expected. And Guterres noticed things will get worse if carbon emissions aren't brought under control. The rise in temperatures globally was just over 1 degree, enough to set off heat waves in North America, Asia, and Europe. The UN also noted wildfires in Canada and Greece have had major impacts on people's health, the environment, and economies. Climate advisors have been warning as temperatures increase, there will be major impacts on transportation systems, power supplies, and healthcare. Experts insist governments around the world need to start preparing for those changes. The previous hottest July and month on record was July 2019. UN scientists say they will finalize their data on August 8th for the entire month of July, but they don't feel much will change over the next few days. That said, there may be a little bit of relief in sight for some European countries battling suffocating heat and devastating fires. The latest forecasts are showing subtle changes in westerly winds that are expected to bring temperatures down, hopefully by the end of the week. Temperatures have already started to dip slightly in Italy. Hopefully that trend will continue. Christine Birak, CBC News, London.
This weather update is brought to you by Capital Ford Lincoln. Employee pricing is on now.
Our weather specialist, Ethan Williams, joins me now. It's hard to wrap your head around hottest month ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to believe, and we're hearing that we're hitting a lot of those tipping points in terms of our climate as well, and we're already starting to see that in points. Of course, we've been dealing with our own heat challenges here in our province too, but today we've had a bit of a reprieve from that, especially in central portions of the province, and we're not alone. A lot of central areas of BC and Alberta through Manitoba and Ontario dealing with some cooler temperatures as well, but southern Saskatchewan still basking in a little bit of heat. So what's going on here? Well, we have a cold front moving through, which has dropped those temperatures to the north of us, attached to this low pressure system in Manitoba. A more than 10-degree temperature divide between places like Saskatoon and Coronach at this hour. And also, we have to keep in mind that just a couple of days ago, a lot of these places were into the upper 20s, low 30s. This is a comparison between those temperatures 2 days ago and the daytime highs today. A 10 to 15 degree difference in a lot of central Saskatchewan. Saskatoon, 16 degrees cooler for your daytime high today than it was 2 days ago. Now, helping cool things down, we have this band of cloud cover stretching through the central prairies, which has been dropping temperatures, while the south has been staying in the sunshine, and we're also getting some clearing in northern Saskatchewan. That low pressure system that I mentioned in Manitoba stirring up a bit of severe weather on that side of the border, but we have seen a few cells pop up on the western side, but the severe thunderstorm watches in our neck of the woods have dropped off. We are still seeing, though, air quality advisories that have been reissued after a day or two of reprieve in the very far north, and we're expecting a little bit of widespread smoke to be moving through that very far northern part of the province over these next couple of days here. Maybe that advisory expanded to far northeastern Saskatchewan. The fire threat starting to pick up a bit, especially in that far north part of the province. The majority of the fires actually in central Saskatchewan, we've seen a lot of rainfall over the past couple of days. So even with that rain, we're still seeing those continue. Fire risk extreme in extreme southern Saskatchewan. That cold front going to drop through overnight tonight, dropping temperatures in the south a little bit tomorrow. Fog possible in most central and northern sections. High pressure going to clear that out of the north tomorrow. We'll see sunshine there. Lingering cloud cover and showers possible, though, tomorrow in south and central before we all start to get some clearing as we head into the weekend. And in terms of winds, as high pressure begins to move in, that low pressure area begins to move out. We're not really seeing gusts picking up all that much. The severe weather threat also going to be quite low over these next couple of days. But then things going to start to pick up again as we head into next week. So for Regina and southern Saskatchewan, a little bit of a dip tomorrow, but then back to seasonal conditions, and then quickly approaching 30 degrees once again. Bit of humidity going to make that feel like the mid 30s as we head into especially the first couple of days of next week. And keep in mind that Monday we'll keep our eye on a possible severe weather threat that day. For Saskatoon, again, still coolish tomorrow, rebounding a little bit. We'll probably get to the 20-degree mark and then clearing and warming up. You're not going to quite get as warm as we're seeing in southern Saskatchewan, but still pretty seasonal conditions. So after a day here, Sam, of some cooler conditions, feeling like fall, definitely right back into summer.
And back to the pool we go.
That's right. Head on out.
All right. Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
A group of killer whales getting up close and personal with a boat on the Strait of Belle Isle, a waterway separating Newfoundland and Labrador. Brittany Neville shot this video. She says the whales would come close and even swim underneath them, then go away and come back and do it again. A bit of midsummer fun with some breathtaking moments too. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back. This week, Loblaws reported a quarterly profit of $508 million. But the grocery giant says store losses are up, thanks in part to theft. Sophia Harris looks at the theft in retail sector and the customer backlash against measures meant to stop it.
Mark Berry says a recent trip to this grocery store, owned by Loblaw, was humiliating. He says just before leaving the store, the wheels on his shopping cart suddenly locked.
And the alarm started blaring all at the same time.
How did that feel?
Incredibly embarrassing. I got people walking in all of a sudden staring at me like I've stolen something.
Berry says he had to show his receipt to prove his innocence and get the wheels unlocked. It left a lasting impression.
I don't want to come back to this store anymore.
The Retail Council of Canada says retail theft, including organized crime, is on the rise, so stores are beefing up security. However, some anti-theft tactics are sparking customer backlash. Retailers like Loblaw and Walmart have installed more metal gates with entry and exit points.
It was just belligerent.
Diane Ray says when she tried to leave Walmart on her mobility scooter, she was stopped by an employee at the gate.
It meant I wasn't going anywhere, right?
Ray says the employee demanded to see her receipt and peppered her with questions before letting her go.
I felt humiliated, angry. I was angry, and I felt like I was being treated unfairly, unjustly.
That's something that you could make a claim on.
This lawyer says retailers can't stop you from leaving a store unless they catch you stealing.
If you're blocked from leaving and you haven't done anything wrong, that indicates that they've engaged in potential false imprisonment, and that opens them up to a lawsuit.
Walmart told CBC News it wants customers to feel accepted and safe and is looking into Ray's case. Loblaw says its security measures are a work in progress and it welcomes customer feedback.
And just it locks up, by itself.
Berry says he did give Loblaw his feedback on social media, but never heard back. Sophia Harris, CBC News, Waterloo, Ontario.
And Ethan's back with one last look at your weather.
And we're looking at a pretty clear night once again in Regina and the south. Temperatures around 16 degrees at midnight. Winds dying back a little bit as far as we've seen them today. Tomorrow morning, looking for a bit of a mix of sun and cloud. Northeast winds staying fairly light on our way to the low 20s is what we can expect tomorrow. Saskatoon, we're looking for possible fog overnight tonight in patches. We'll keep an eye on that. Otherwise, mostly clear. And then temperatures are rebounding somewhat by the morning, but not by much. We may not even crack 20 degrees. And if you are heading out to Food Truck Wars in Saskatoon at the noon hour tomorrow, you will be looking at 18 degrees, mostly cloudy skies, maybe a shower in there as well. So if you're grabbing a burrito or a shawarma or a sausage, Sam, grab the jacket too.
I just wondered how many things you were going to list before you let me come back.
I got a whole list here. Keep going.
Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
Before we leave you, some other fun news out of Saskatoon. The new baseball club, the Saskatoon Berries, has unveiled its logo. 2 weeks ago, the new name for the city's Western Canadian Baseball League team was unveiled. This new logo popped up on the team's social media this morning. So far, fan reviews are all favorable, many wondering when the new Berries merchandise will be released. The team won't actually hit the field until 2024. Joe Carnahan has been announced as the team's head coach for the inaugural season. And that is it for us tonight. For news anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/sask or /Saskatoon or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Ethan and I will be back with more local news and weather and maybe lists at 11. Thanks for watching and have a great night.